the Head of Communications of the Department of Defense. Before we get into the business of the day, I think we all know the rules of the game. We shall have General Simang reading a statement to yourself in relation to the matter that is at hand, the VVIP processes of what happened or what the media has been exposed to over the weekend. So we would like to welcome you and feel free to ask us as many questions, as many as you want. Any question, we will avail ourselves to at our best try and answer all those questions. We will first have General Simang taking us through the statement, after which we will then be followed by CEO of Armscor, who will take us through the processes of the request for information and what it means. Without further ado, may I invite Lieutenant General Simang to come and read the statement for us. Thank you. My apologies that you have the cameras in front. I would have loved them to be behind you guys, so that you can actually see properly. I wonder if you could do that quickly, just a step back, so that the other guys can see it. Too late.
Or maybe at an angle.
Or even a bit on the side, so that your colleagues can actually see. Don't say it's my disorganization, it's your own. Okay. Sir, may I invite you to...
No, thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to all of you, and welcome. I'm just about to read the press statement, and it reads thus. Internationally, Africa is perceived as a continent with huge untapped potential. It is therefore high on the international agenda. South Africa is perceived as either one of the key players on the continent or, for some, the gateway to Africa. From this perspective, South Africa must have an excellent capability to maintain diplomatic relations with BRICS, the African Union, African nations, and others. Related activities can take the form of, for example, trade delegations to South Africa's trading partners, diplomatic interventions between conflicting sides on the African continent, or participating in urgent international security planning sessions. Promoting security in Africa has a major and long-term peace dividend. The return on investment in security for Africa and Southern Africa is substantial. The South African Air Force is required to provide a mission-ready intercontinental air transport capability at all times. The requirement is urgent and important. Over the past few years, the availability of the intercontinental aircraft of the South African Air Force has been problematic, making it difficult for the SAF to fulfill its responsibility and mandate. The absence of the Boeing business jet and other VVIP aircraft for 4 months at a time during the scheduled maintenance periods aggravates the vulnerability of the South African Air Force in providing the indicated service. The chartering option provided unreliable and introduces certain risks. There is an increased requirement for long-range flights to the Far East and other parts of the world. During such long flights, teams should be able to work and have the ability to communicate securely. In the case of flights involving representatives of the RSA interacting with other countries, the ability to arrive fresh at the destination across the multiple time zones is critical. The South African Air Force, therefore, has a need to increase their current capability to provide intercontinental air transportation to members of the South African government. The current fleet of the VVIP aircraft cannot sustain the current air transport requirements from the South African Air Force VIP clients as tasked. The aircraft is operated by 21 Squadron at Air Force Base Waterkloof in Centurion, Pretoria. The operating conditions out of this base have a key effect on the ability of the aircraft to achieve maximum payload due to the density altitude constraints during the hot summer months. The required operational capability, which we normally call the ROC, for the capacitation of the VVIP transportation dates 24 January 2012 was approved. The additional capacity will complement the current capability. Therefore, the request for information, which we call the RFI, is intended to provide information on both a 5,500 nautical miles and a 7,200 nautical miles capability with 18 or 30 passengers respectively. The published request for information is aimed at obtaining information that will assist Armscor in identifying possible options to satisfy the South African Air Force's requirement to expand their current intercontinental VVIP transport capability. The RFI aims to obtain information on the affordability of different options and different finance options of the eventually selected option. It is not a binding document, please take note. The leasing of used aircraft as an interim solution is an option to ensure availability of aircraft by March 2016, possibly followed by the purchasing of long-term solutions. Once the information has been received and analyzed, the tender process will start with what we call the request for proposal. With that, I end this press statement.
Thank you very much. I would then request the CEO of Armscor, Mr. Kevin Wakefield, to actually give us the details of where we are and what this RFI means in the process that we are engaged in. Thank you very much, Mr. Wakefield.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity, Chief. What we're going to talk to are the issues around the RFI and what informs the RFI. So let's move to the first slide. What has been acquired? Where does the money come from? All the questions being asked in the press currently. Why the specific layout? Why the size? Why not a commercial airline or charter? why not current aircraft, and why buy and not lease? Firstly, let us say that this is meant to be a national asset for the purposes of VIP leadership within government and for usage to do and to perform a variety of functions. And the General has already spoken to those activities which are escalating, in particular with our role in Africa, but also with our growing trade with the East. So, current workload and availability, a single aircraft is simply not a reliable solution in terms of what we have at the moment. The aircraft has a service cycle, and we all know what that means. One may have failures, and we admit to those. And the demand may be more than one simultaneous deployment. Sorry.
It's okay.
I wish I knew it off by heart, but I don't.
Okay, I think I've got
Yeah, we can go to the beginning so that everyone can tape it. Could we go back, please? Right, first slide. Okay, the scope of the RFI looks into what has been acquired, where does the money come from, why the specific layout, why the size, why not a commercial airline or charter, why not the current aircraft, and why buy and not lease. You can turn that if you want to, I can now see. Right, so we're looking at the purchase of a national asset with global and continental utility. Bearing in mind that there's a demand, particularly with our escalating role in Africa and our growing trade with the East. Current workload and availability. The view is that a single aircraft is simply not a reliable solution. And we've seen why not in the past. We've had to charter, we've had to hire, we've had to rent, with all kinds of issues surrounding that, in particular security issues. The aircraft has a service cycle, the current aircraft. So if it's been serviced or repaired, then what do you do if you have two imperatives or even one? One may have failures, which we've had in the past. So you need to mitigate against those risks. The demand may be more than one simultaneous deployment. And we've seen that in terms of a variety of senior government leaders. So why do we need capability? Why not the current aircraft, and why the size? Because those are some of the questions coming up. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a request for information. I don't know where the 4 billion comes from, because quite frankly, we can't afford that. We're looking at a whole variety of options, but we are seeking information to establish the facts. And until we've established the facts, and Armscor has very competent engineers, scientists, defense analysts, and of course people who can crunch the numbers. And we're not going to do anything irresponsible. That I can guarantee you of. So why do we need the capability? Firstly, South Africa's intercontinental role, visibly, and it was mentioned by the General, BRICS and the G20 is growing. Diplomacy, trade delegations, urgent visits. One of our generals had to be scrambled out of Africa to get to New York, to the UN, on an urgent matter. The jet was used for that purpose. These are realities we face every single day in the Defence Force.
RSA's continental role, and you will know that our role is growing massively. The AU must react to a continental crisis, and we play a significant role within the AU, the African Union. The South Africa plays a central role in the Africa Standby Force, and we've just seen what has happened at Waterkloof, where we are already working together to find out what are the issues of interoperability, etc. Urgent meetings in Addis Ababa, multinational planning en route to regional briefings. People don't sit on the plane and do nothing. They work. So when they get there, they're prepared. They have wireless communication. They have satellite telecoms, because they need to be speaking to leaders of other nation states. This certainly isn't a toy. This is a strategic asset of the state. RSA diplomacy for crises on the continent, and you've seen those, and we have to get to them. We can't sit by a few thousand miles away. We need to get there and to be part of conflict resolution. Why not commercial airlines? Why not charters? Firstly, commercial airlines don't fly to all destinations, particularly in Africa. And you have a situation where you sometimes even have to fly via Europe to come all the way back into, say, Central Africa. The reaction times aren't quick enough. A day in a coup d'etat is a long time. The security of flights. We must make sure our leaders are secure. And that's why the Air Force is the custodian of the fleet. No one else is the custodian. It's the Air Force. Onboard productivity. Imagine trying to work on a commercial flight when you're needing to engage with your team. You can't do that. And certainly you'll be breaching every secret and classified protocol if you were. And onboard security. And I don't need to elaborate on onboard security. We've just seen what happened in Egypt to a commercial airline. So where does the money come from, and why buy not lease? It's an RFI, a request for information. Already people in the press are speaking about a purchase. We don't know what the form of ownership is going to be. There are so many forms of ownership. There's buy to lease, or lease to buy, sorry. There's rental. There's a credit installment arrangement. And there's a straightforward purchase with cash. We don't know what it's going to be, because we haven't got there yet. Affordability will determine the selection of the eventual solution and financing options. And here, let me say to you, we haven't even excluded second-hand aircraft. If you read the RFI, we ask you to cover all options and look into all options. We are being, prudent about how we exercise our planning process on this and our evaluation process. We know that money doesn't grow on trees. And part of our role as the executing authority on this matter is to make damn sure that we are being responsible. We aren't going to be irresponsible. And it is unbelievable to see the trash that's being meted out in some of the media on this matter. Devoid of all truth. Capability is an approved requirement since 2012. So it's not as if everyone ran off and did something in 2012. We are waiting and making sure that we are ready to conduct processes of this nature. So what stage of acquisition? A request for information is to determine what permutations meet the requirement. Number one. What are the platform requirements? Are we going to go for a wide body or a narrow body? Obviously a wide body is more expensive, whether it be second hand or new. A narrow body is cheaper, but it doesn't have the range of a wide body. Can we attach new fuel systems to the aircraft? These are all things we're looking for in the RFI. What are the financing options? And I've spoken to them. Purchase, lease to buy, lease. It may even be a credit installment arrangement. We don't know. And we'll only know once we have the facts. But the driver of this, and this is a capability imperative, it's a priority. And if you consider our trade with Africa, you must never discount the return on investment we get. The DRC alone, 24 billion rand per annum for South Africa's exports into the DRC. 140,000 jobs linked to those exports. And if you see the peace dividend that's coming through, particularly from countries where we've been doing conflict resolution and peacekeeping, the return is massive. It will pay for this many times over. So finally, let me say this. We aren't going to be irresponsible. Once we have all the information, then we'll consider the facts and we will liaise with the client. This is my client, the Air Force and the Department of Defense. And then we'll decide how to move forward. But it'll be a clinical and rational and responsible process. It will not be a process as depicted by some people in the press. It will not be an irresponsible process. An RFI, remember, is to test the market in terms of availability and product options and is not binding. So we may, at the end of all of this, say, we're going to have to wait a bit longer, or we may say, let's move forward with the following, which is a request for offers. An RFO is specific in terms of requirements and responses to the RFO, entails a binding offer to supply. So it starts becoming legalistic at that point. At this point, that's all it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it is. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Wakeford. I'm now going to open the floor for questions. We will take 3 questions as a pledge, and you know the ritual. Your name, your media, and your question. I will start on my left. The lady there, my dear, you can continue.
I just want to find out when this is.
Can't hear.
But
Sorry, can you raise your voice sound, please?
Is this okay now?
yes.
Roberta Palmer from AM7. I just want to find out from you if this aircraft has been purchased. Are we looking at other options like using it as a multi-purpose jet? Also, I just wanted to clarify the issue of the range as well.
I saw Brian Watson.
Brian Costa from the Times newspaper. Questions both the Air Force and to Armscor. In terms of current status of maintenance on the VVIP jets, what maintenance is being done? When will those aircraft become serviceable, and how long can they continue to be used for before they need to undergo maintenance again? And then to Armscor, so, what is the budget that you're looking at? We're hearing a figure of 4 billion rand. That figure seems to be quite reliable in what you're looking at. But what is the budget that Armscor is looking at in terms of buying the new VVIP jet?
Thank you, Graham. Any take on that side? I'll go to Erica Gibson.
Erica Gibson from VV24. I would like to ask 2 questions. What is the significance of March 2016 that you mentioned? And the second place, can you give us an indication of how many trips and how many flying hours did Inquasi undertake transcontinentally in the past year?
Thank you, Erica. And I'll take one last one first.
Kim Halkemi, respectively. This is probably more to Armscor than to you, Jim, on this one. We all know, well, not all of us, most of us are aware that the capacitation and the approval for this was granted as far back as 2012. Why does there now suddenly seem to be this major rush in that the RFI must be submitted by no later than this month? Why now, after 3 years of virtually nothing happening, is it now suddenly happening? And then the second part of my question, will this be, as Dept Secretary Kalubi has alluded to, become a scam project? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The panel may respond in
After you.
Okay. Multi-purpose. Okay.
Do we answer? Do we answer? Multi-purpose. Okay, to ANN7 on the multi-purpose possibilities. We can't rule that out. We've got to look to whatever productivity options there are, and hence the RFI. If there's a solid case for a multi-purpose type aircraft, we would certainly give it consideration. On the issue of range, ideally a wide body gets you further, but of course it all links itself to affordability. So if we cannot afford a wide body, then we will go with a narrow body. It's as simple as that. That's the reality we face in terms of the business. It can't be irresponsible. General, I just want to add to that.
Thank you very much. With regards to the range, we talk about 5,500 nautical miles. It gets into Europe comfortably. 7,200 nautical miles gets you to New York, to Beijing, Tokyo, to Sydney, Melbourne, without any challenges, a direct flight. With regards to the maintenance cycle, as you are aware, the Inquasi, the 737, was manufactured in 2001, the Falcon 900, 1991, the Falcons 50s that we have, one was manufactured in 1982 and the other one in 1983. When we look at the aircraft that we have, the general life, the life of an aircraft is about 20 to 30 years. When you look at these aircrafts that we have, I have now gone past the midlife, and hence the issues of maintenance, regular maintenance taking place affects the availability of the aircraft. With regards to the details of the maintenance cycle, that of course is something that is managed by our technician, and I don't think it's of any value to people sitting around here. The budget. Sure. Dept.
Just a related answer to the agency that was asked about. I just want to remind everybody that this capability need is not something new. I think you know yourself that almost 2 decades ago, there was a project Germany which was supposed to help or capacitate the whole VVIP fleet. Unfortunately, for budgetary and other reasons, we only managed to get the BBJ. But the gap remained from that time. So So it's not about anything urgent or whatever. But yes, the costs for chartering are also considered. In my personal opinion, speaking personally, if we take all the money that we use to charter, we could have a very good capability in the South African Air Force.
So the question of the budget, I'll speak to that. Okay. Just on the question relating to what is the budget, and let me tell you that this budget will be determined by what the options are. So, for instance, if you lease, you don't link to the SCAMP at all. You don't link to the capital program at all. Then you link to an operational budget. If you purchase, then you take it out of the capital budget. But the RFI process will bring in a whole lot of options and what the values are, and then we'll look to, let's call it the Department of Defence's piggy bank, and see where and what we can source, and it may even involve biomass. In other words,
well, we just want to apologise for the poor audio and at times visual quality on that live crossing. Of course, that's as incoming from Pretoria. That was the...
Let me say this, that this imperative has been growing to such an extent in terms of our role internationally. And remember, this is not just used by a single person. This is at times used by ministers, by the president, the deputy president. It just depends on what the demands are at that given moment in time. But often you have a requirement for Inkwezi, and you have a requirement for something else, and you don't have it. Then you've got a charter, you've got a rent, or you've got to look at other options. And that's just not viable when you're managing, in particular, crises, for instance, on the continent, or major economic type engagements overseas in the East. And you know, Africa's trade with the East between 1998 and 2006 has grown by in excess of 2,000%. So the imperative to engage and to bring back opportunities in terms of trade and investment are very high for South Africa in particular. So we need that capability. Why March? Well, my view is the minister is sick and tired of waiting. And she has said to us now, as a team, as an integrated task team, this must happen. She's embarrassed that it hasn't happened yet. And she wants it to happen now. And she's given us a timeline. By the end of March, we must have some form of capability, even if it's an interim solution. But we need that capability, because you can't keep hiring and chartering. It's not worth your while. General, do you want to respond to the flying hours of Inkwezi?
I don't think that is relevant to today's discussion, because our focus is to explain where we are in the process of acquiring this new capability, and explain also what is entailed in the RFI.
If I could just add to what the General has said. So I don't have the hours on me either, but let me say this much. It's not about the hours, it's about availability. So if you have Inkwezi sitting in Addis, as an example, and you have another imperative to get to Beijing or to New Delhi, how do you satisfy that imperative? So it's more around availability of aircraft than it is around whether we're maximizing time and usage, because ultimately the usage factor is determined by demand. But it's no good having a plane sitting in Addis and you need another one to get to Beijing. So that's the reality of the situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waitford. Can I just check with our sound people? I'm informed that the sound is bad. Is there anything you can do? Are you guys on your cameras happy with the sound? Is the sound Sounds good for you guys. All right. Let's have another round of questions. Kim, Erica, Graham, the usual suspects of Patrick.
Just one more question, more specifically to Mr. Wakefield this time around. You're talking about the solution. At this stage of the proceedings, it seems to be a single aircraft. But could the solution, if pricing and other situations are right, be two platforms possibly? Thank you.
Yes. We're not going back.
Okay, sorry. Carry on.
I just want to ask, where did the priority of heavy lift and the bigger transport aircraft to transport our troops in and out of Africa, where did that requirement, or where is it at this stage? Is it a higher or a lower priority at this stage? And will the VIP requirement enjoy preference to getting the troops safely in and out of Africa without that?
Thank you.
Both Armscor and the airports. You talk about the flying hours being irrelevant at the moment, but should the flying hours impact in terms of maintenance, the level of maintenance or when maintenance has to occur? So if the aircraft is not available, then surely that does have relevance to this discussion today. And then the other question that I wanted to know, so to Armscor, there must be a budget in terms of what you're looking at for lease kind of basis, whether we want to buy lease, whether we want to purchase. Should we be looking at some sort of figures?
May I double check? That was the last. Oh, there's one here.
Good morning. My name is Waterkloof.
From?
Can you hear me?
On the side. You can stand next to the speaker.
I'm saying my name is Waterkloof. Mr. Wayford, you said earlier that you are not giving a possibility of going for the second hand. Even, are you also looking at a possibility of perhaps asking South African Airways, given the fact that they are talking of getting more, buying more aircraft, perhaps if you use one of their own 346 aircraft, if they want to return those? But also you talked earlier about minimizing the risks. What risks are you really talking about?
Thanks, Guru. The last one there.
Good day. My name is Neo, from SABC Heavy News. My question is to the CEO of Armscor. First, we just want to find out, where can one locate this information that we presented today here? Looking at the fact that for the past 2 days, one has been struggling to get your enter into your website, which has been down for 2 to 3 days. Is there any reason why your website was down for that period?
Thank you very much. We'll hand over to the panel to respond.
I think that's what the study is like. We're going to be able to tell you after we've done this study.
On the matter of, would it be possible to, in terms of this requirement, get 2 aircraft versus 1? Now, I must be honest with you, we haven't considered that, but an RFI is sufficiently flexible and open to give that consideration. On the issue of, you're going to respond to him?
I'll respond. Ms. Gibson, your question is noted. I'd like to state that the requirement for heavy lift still stands very high on our priority. As you are aware, as we speak right now, we are busy with the Defence Review implementation, which is going to chart the roadmap of the South African Air Force as well as the SNDF in terms of capacitating itself to be able to address those gaps that you've alluded to. So yes, the heavy lift is very much still high on our agenda. Okay. On the issue of the flying hours, I think it was at Graham. Yes. On the issue of the maintenance and flying hours, I think I'd like to repeat once again that issue is not related to the purpose of this discussion. Those issues will be taken into account when the technical teams do the technical evaluation, where we look at a whole range of issues, the issues of maintenance cycles, the issues of OEMs, where are they situated, and things like that are taken into consideration. So at this point in time, I don't think we can answer that.
All about the maintenance. He's wanting something on how's the maintenance program going, etc. Remember,
that maintenance, the maintenance of the VVIP aircraft is going to determine the purchase of the new aircraft. I mean,
yes.
As you said yourself, we're beyond the midlife cycle of many of the aircraft. Some of those aircraft dated back to the 80s. Now, surely the public has a right to know what the maintenance cycle of those aircraft are. You know, does it come to a point where actually just look at selling those aircraft? Has it come to a point where those aircraft are no longer viable? I mean, surely the public has a right to know whether those aircraft are even viable. Are we using those aircraft to a point where we're endangering members of the government? You know, putting the minister in that plane is actually not. It's endangering. I mean, it's a simple question.
But we must get permission from the chairperson to ask questions. Thank you. I'll allow General Malina to respond.
I think, Graham, what you need to be asking is the supportability, not maintenance. Maintenance is at the different level, at the technical level. Maintenance could mean tightening up a loose screw or something. But supportability as a concept, I would agree with you if you asked it that way. But the issue remains that there's a request for information that was sent out. We're waiting for replies, and that is as comprehensive as it can be. It will determine what's available out there, what can we afford, and one of the criteria being supportability of whatever option is. I think
sums it up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if I can respond to what is the budget? Surely you have a budget. Well, if I were to respond and tell you what we perhaps have in reserve, it would directly influence the RFO. In other words, we say, that's the amount. Well, this is what we're going to put in our bid. So unfortunately, I'm not going to give you the budget. But I can tell you this much, that it may be a capital acquisition or it may be an operational budget requirement. And those are two very, very different budgets for the Defence Force. Secondly, on SAA. SAA is welcome to respond to the RFI and the RFO. We can't stop them. They're just another operator out there. Yes, they may be a state-owned entity, but they are a civilian-driven organization. So when we speak about security and mitigation of risk, we speak about a very different security program that relates to that particular aircraft. Even the methodology in terms of servicing and where you service, the methodology in terms of who you allow on an aircraft and who you don't. Every single person in the military, even service providers, are vetted by Defence Intelligence. So you can't willy-nilly just look at a civilian operator unless they meet your security requirements. And of course, SAA has every right. Should they meet those requirements and to respond, they're welcome to. But this is a competitive process.
I'd just like to add on with regards to our interaction, talking about the South African Air Force and SAA. We have ongoing engagements on regular basis where we look at a whole host of issues, this being one of them. So we are engaging with SAA. You must also take note that SAA has, their business is to fly their aircraft, and it's a question of availability. They've got the footprint that they have. They also have to ensure that they also satisfy their clients.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've answered all the questions. I'm going to go one,
SABC.
two.
SABC.
Oh, yeah, SABC.
Oh, sorry. Firstly, let me apologize for our website problem. It actually relates to a fairly large cellular company in this country that their service to us has been, disrupted quite significantly. And we are dealing with that matter as you speak, and we're treating it as a crisis. But let me also say to you that if you require copies of the RFI, Darby, won't you stand up, please? Darby Chrysel, as part of our acquisition team, and we have other staff members here as well. Andries, you can stand up at the back. Andries, Gerry, just mention those people. Mr. Jabba, stand up at the back. Thank you. They all can get you copies of RFIs. They're in the public domain, and we can in fact go and get copies now for you if you're willing to wait. Armscor's just up the road. So if you want copies of the RFIs, speak to my staff, you'll get them. Okay? Anything else from you, sir? Have I answered all your questions? Thank you.
Colleagues, thank you very much. If there are any questions, and we really appreciate your response to this meeting. And thank you very much to the panel too. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
And you, and from now you deal with me. Okay, I'm not. So, who's speaking? We're coming with you're just fine. You're just fine. Anyone dealing with the follow-ups, only him, so there's no distortion.